Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Five Knights Tavern, our brand new channel. And we are a bunch of idiots that like to review movies and video games and stuff like that. And for this holiday season, we decided we were going to start off with the best Christmas movie of all time, Star Wars. It's a Christmas movie, right, guys?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's totally a Christmas movie.
10
But
out of 10.
either way, we've all seen Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. This is going to be a spoiler-free review. No spoilers are going to be uttered here. Because the movie is brand new and there's no real time for that. We will have a spoiler review going up pretty soon. We all have a whole lot to talk about the movie. We're all over the place with it. So with that, let's get started. I am Knight 1.
Kylo Ben.
Captain Chris, welcome aboard.
All right. And let's just get started with our initial reactions to the movie. Like, where was everybody at in the movie? Yeah?
That's how I feel about every single Star Wars movie after I see it.
For the first time?
Yep.
To say I like the movie doesn't feel true.
I don't hate the movie.
I can't hate the movie. I can honestly say that I cannot hate this film.
I can't hate it, but I can't love it. We're kind of in a weird situation where the movie felt very disjointed. It was like it was trying to rush itself to where it needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like on the back of episode 8, like it clearly wasn't where it needed to be, so it was trying to spend a good hour like just darting you as fast as possible so we can get to this position where it's finally like, okay, now the actual plot can kick in where we need it to be.
And that's something that any Star Wars film up to this point has never felt like.
Yeah, it was rushed. It was hard to... It was like you couldn't catch a breath while you were watching the movie.
Right.
Not at all.
There was no lull to catch your breath like you said, but at the same time, as fast as it was going, there was never nothing interesting going on. That was a double negative. There was always something good about what was on screen.
Oh yeah, there was always stuff driving it forward, but at the same time, it was just a little bit too much. Like, as a Star Wars fan, I was able to just barely keep up and understand what was happening, but I feel like I completely understand that the general audiences are split hard right now.
Well, you're a Star Wars fan and you're barely able to keep up. Do you think a general audience member is going to be like, wait, what?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're going to get lost almost immediately unless you're really paying attention. And, but that is a really, really big problem. But the movie does have a lot of, like, let's start with the good. Like, what did we really, really enjoy about this movie? Like, we can get the effects and the audio out of the way immediately. They were immaculate across the board.
Absolutely.
Some of the best effects I've seen in a movie. And, of course, John Williams has knocked it out of the park again with the classic Star Wars score. It's always just tear-jerking to hear that music for the first time in a couple years on a big screen. It was definitely a ride with that stuff. Like, they'll always get the effects right.
Yeah. Effects, music. I would say... I can say this without spoiling, is that the fight choreography is much improved.
Oh no, it's very on point. Like, and these two, you can tell like off the back of The Last Jedi, like still how angry they are at each other, the way they fight. There's a lot of just raw, like I'm going to fucking kill you in their swings, and it really is good. The fight choreography is really on point with that one.
So I really appreciated that. First time I saw Episode 8. The fight with the Red Guard, I thought it was fine until somebody pointed out all the flaws to me, and now I can't watch the fight without snickering.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Like when you see all the
so when I went into
choreography.
this, I'm just like, oh, this is refreshing.
Yeah, I really loved how they handled the untimely death of Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia, without spoiling anything. Like I think they did the best they could with what they had, and I feel like general audiences that might not know that she's dead, I think it still flows okay in the movie.
Yes, it didn't feel like it messed with the plot too much at all.
And they still gave her, they still really honored her legacy in the movie. I really, really appreciated that. Mm-hmm. Like, it was excellent.
I would like to bring up that the acting as well seems to be pretty on par for the course. Pretty good acting all around.
Yeah, I would agree. Especially like seeing Billy D. Williams back as Lando Calrissian, like that was a nice little treat.
Yeah.
Like even like we haven't seen him on the big screen in 20, 30 years, and he's right back on it. I'm just like, all right, it's great to have Lando back on board.
There's no prequel bad dialogue vibes or anything like that, so
I don't feel any of that. Like,
no.
I liked the humor dynamic between Poe, Finn, and Rey, because those three didn't get to really spend any time together in the first two movies. Like Poe and Rey only just met at the very end of 8, so seeing them finally get to
Right.
bicker and banter between each other, that was really cool, because we have two of these characters that we're used to, but we haven't seen them together yet, so we have this fresh banter that we get, and it feels right. There's some really good banter in there.
Surprisingly to me, the character that seemed to have gotten a lot more dialogue and stuff into these films is the person that's been in it the longest, C-3PO.
Yeah, 3PO did have a lot going on in that movie. Like, he even had a major plot point in it, which we'll get to in our spoiler review. But yeah, like they really did bring 3PO into the mix a lot more than usual, and I think he was pretty good. I liked it.
The way they worked him into this movie, normally whenever I see him on screen, he's almost as annoying as Jar Jar to me. But in this movie, I didn't feel that at all.
He was a lot more subdued, like a little bit almost desperate, I would say. Like he feels the tension that everyone else is feeling.
The way they had him act out in this, it felt like he was more of a pal and a part of the group instead of just a servant.
Yeah, instead of just that guy in the background spouting out that he's fluent in 6 million forms of communication.
Yeah, constantly complaining all the time, too.
Yeah, he felt like a character in this movie, which I really, really appreciated.
I also appreciated...
What do you do?
That's kind of a spoiler. I'm going to let that one go.
What do you think about the jokes? Because C-3PO is usually like the butt end of a joke, but here I want to argue that he was really funny.
Here, I feel like they really toned down the jokes for the most part in the movie. Like
a little bit.
Like episode 7 and 8 really felt like Avengers-y movies. Like how everything was the butt end of a slapstick. Like at the beginning of episode 7 when Poe first gets captured and he's staring at Kylo Ren, he's just like, so who talks first? You talk first, I talk first? It's like, well, hold on a second. We've got a serious scene going on and you made this little cheap joke. Like I feel like episode 9 didn't have nearly as many of those. There were a few, but there wasn't as much ridiculous comedy in it, I would say.
Yeah.
There probably just wasn't time for it.
There was a few.
All things considered, yeah. It's a 2.5-hour movie that only felt like 45 minutes because it just would not let up at any point.
It is... I looked this up right before I went. It's tied for second longest Star Wars movie with episode 2.
Episode 2 is the longest. I thought episode 8 was the longest.
No, it's tied for second longest.
Oh, tied for second longest.
Episode 8's number 1, episode 2, and 9 are tied for second.
They're exactly the same length?
Yep.
That makes sense. But, a lot of stuff would have to drift into spoilers. So what about some negativity? Obviously, we talked about the movie is way all over the place. Literally, we are bouncing from place to place with no real context of what we're doing for the most part. And Kyle's been complaining about this a lot. We've been working on Star Wars movie reviews, and we were going to start releasing them after 9 comes out. And Kyle's main complaint with jumping from planet to planet is they all need planet title cards. And I think the only Star Wars movie that actually does that is Rogue One. And it is helpful. But with this movie, it's like you're on a planet, you're on a planet, you're on a planet, you're on a planet, and you're just moving along.
There's only 3 Star Wars planet that I recognize on site. 4.
Yeah.
4. And it's what is it? The one with the clones, I forget its name.
Camino.
Okay, that's what I thought. Camino, Tatooine, Coruscant, and Exegol.
I like how he remembered the name of that planet. Thanks for that, Kyle. Appreciate that. I haven't been able to remember it in the last day or so.
Yeah,
those are the only 4 that I recognize on site.
That kind of this movie revolves around is just not. It's said, but do you Did you remember the name?
It doesn't roll off the tongue. Not like Naboo or Tatooine or Endor or something like that. But I'm sure we'll get used to it.
They said it enough in the movie that for me it stuck, and they were there
They were there a lot.
They were there several different times.
They were there a lot, yeah. But another big hurdle is I do feel like Rey and Kylo Ren were not used properly.
Yeah.
I do feel that. I still feel like Rey is way too powerful for her own good, and they put her back in a plot point that was abandoned, and it doesn't really. It's not satisfying. What happens to her is not satisfying, and what happens to Kylo was almost great, and then they blow it at the end. They completely botch it at the end, and it wrecks his character.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
We're gonna rip that
like
apart.
we're about to roll into the spoiler review because there's really not a whole lot we can say without giving away this movie because there's just so much to unpack. So aside from being general, like we liked the music, we liked the effects, we liked maybe this character, we liked that character.
In hindsight, my initial reaction to Palpatine in this movie was iffy, but now thinking back on it, I loved him in this movie.
Yeah, I'm sure we've got some stuff to say about Palpatine coming up pretty soon. So,
yeah, that's not really a spoiler.
Oh no, yeah, everyone knows Palpatine's in the movie. He's in the trailers.
I would say that the movie runs at a breakneck pace, which is something Star Wars shouldn't do.
I feel like
it should do during like space battles and everything like that. Sure. But when talking about the Force and everything else in between, it needs to be ambience. There needs to be ambience.
You need to have a break.
There was no. So if you look at it like on a graph, most Star Wars movies they're kind of flat in the beginning, then they just kind of pick up. Somewhere in the middle, they kind of flatten off again, and then like towards the end they just shoot straight up. This movie it never had the flat points.
Yeah, it's just an exponent.
It's constantly going up all the way.
It starts at 100 miles an hour and just steps on the gas.
It's constantly going up, and it starts like here instead of down here.
Yeah, like the very first shot is just like dramatic music, and it's time for shit to go down. Like there's no time like at all. Like, we just have to get caught up with our characters as soon as humanly possible.
There's no time to explain.
I don't
have time to explain why I don't have time to explain.
There's no time to explain.
Quick, everybody in the Falcon. All right, and with that, thank you so much for watching our spoiler-free review. We're sorry for it being so vague, but there really is a lot to unpack. So if you've already seen the movie and you're ready to know what we think about, please go ahead and click on the next video. That will be our spoilery discussion where we're just going to start to rip this movie apart as best as we possibly can. We've all only seen it once, and we're going to try our best to make heads or tails of this because the internet is definitely split right now. So thank you all so much for watching. This has been the Knights of the Tavern, and we will see you guys in the next video. Thank you.